Brian, nice to meet you. Hi there.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tia Chuchas. My name is Linda Ravenswood, and this is a reading from Volume 6 of the Los Angeles Press in-print and online seasonal journal. Our theme this time is the dance. Please come down to Tia Chuchas for everything cultural, literary, and exciting in Los Angeles, and pick up a copy of this book, and maybe Tlacuilix from Hinchas Press, or maybe My Name is Romero from David Romero, or Mowing Leaves of Grass from Matt Sedillo. My gosh, so many wonderful books to pick up here. Today we'll be welcoming Los Angeles Poet Laureate Extraordinaire Lynne Thompson, who'll be reading first. West Hollywood Poet Laureate of fame and fortune, Brian Sonia-Wallace, who'll be reading second. Our friend Rick Lupert, Christina Cha, Bernadette McComish, and all the way from San Francisco, Colleen, Shoshana, McKee. So without further ado, please welcome your Los Angeles and San Francisco poets reading from Volume 6, Los Angeles Press, The Dance, and other amazing works.
Oh, girlfriend.
Drama!
Oh my gosh.
My heel got stuck. So sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. We're just glad you're okay.
Yeah, we're so glad you're
I was just thinking, I hope squatting is not a requirement of this reading.
Yeah.
Because I can't.
And welcome again.
Thank you. I guess I'm good to go. It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually not reading from that journal. I'm going to read four other poems, starting with this one. Once We Were Rivers has an epigraph by W.E.B. Du Bois. Would America have been America without her Negro people? But is this the last of us? Gone the mean barracoon, gone the deep, wide rivers of us. No more roosters or pickled pig's feet, no Aretha or respect. Is this the last of us? Our African less African and gone, our tap less Bojangles, Hines, and gone. Gone the deep, wide rivers of us, and gone too our faith and fidelity to the Betsy Ross stitch. And Martin, was he the last of us? And Malcolm, Harriet, Barbara Jordan, all gone. Who remains to pray for the deep, wide rivers of us? Gone our song and its shadow, gone the tongue of the gullah, gone the deep, wide rivers of us. Is this the last of us? You can't really believe that. You've been seeing the last of us for a long time come. Come first the black women and their people, Amina of Zaria, Anna D'Souza Nzinga, Nandi. Then come the transatlantic traders sailing from Luanda, Malembo, Sierra Leone, landing Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Kitts, landing the Carolinas, Virginia, New York. Come then the black men running, too many slave named like my great-great-great-grandfather George, Fred Douglass. This is not too old a story. See Emmett Till, Harry Moore, 4 dead girls in an Alabama church. Some say only a few bad rogues, but today's cops, just like yesterday's patty rollers, shot Stephon Clark, shot Danny Ray Thomas, shot Antoine Rose II, shot Deontay Yarber, all of them unarmed. And all of this in the year of whose Lord? 2018. So we fight for the last of us, even fight each other, Ali Boumaier. But then we hear the kora, the talking drum, the balafon and marimba. And Josephine Baker heard them, and Jacob Lawrence heard them, and Toni Morrison heard them, and Jesse Owens, running, heard the drums that turned the Arthur Ashe racket into a drum, the diplomacy of Ralph Bunche into a drum, the demand of Ida B. Wells into a drum, like Basquiat's obnoxious liberals was a drum, like Harriet Powers' quilting was a drum, like a LeBron James dunk is a drum, and didn't Father Curry preach in the Church of England like a drum those lords and ladies had never heard before? So they know as you know, there will never be a last of us. We come like rivers. And then thank you. Two more from my collection, fretwork, and then I'll close. This one, Emma Gray. Maybe it was reflex, maybe it was memory and want for the scent of sour sop and sugar apples, memory of the flight of a frigate bird that made us drive every Sunday down Vine Street past Forest Lawn Cemetery to Griffith Park, where Daddy, nutmeg-colored and clad head to toe in his all-whites, came to play cricket and make believe he was home in Bucamont Valley, St. Vincent, West Indies, where he could be the man home would have made of him, although none of that meant one EC dollar to me because in those days, cricket with its ball of string and hard cork, wooden stumps and willow cart blades turned into bats was an odd British formality. A long ago when ladies wore pale hose and organdy hats and I was allowed to wear my Sunday finery as long as I didn't grass stain my not-for-school skirt. Drink tea in Royal Crown cups and wolf down cucumber and cream cheese sandwiches those old world women made for their men to devour during the break in the game, which might last for a leisurely hour or more before the teams would take up again in a throw of fear because Daddy was the game's best bowler, and with his elbow cocked and a lightning rotation of his arm, he threw googlies, leg breaks, and flippers, always got his man and took the wicket because Daddy could bring the heat, although he never would have said bring the heat, because his home rule kind of schooling favored the King's English over the colloquial. But it was exactly this heat-bringing and resplendent use of language that made him the kind of man to be reckoned with, and I worked hard to grasp it. And then I'm going to just close with this short one, honoring the ancestors as I like to do. This is a cento based on the poetry of Langston Hughes. Langston won't stay in his grave. Calls me rose of neon darkness. Calls himself early blue evening, black smoke of sound. Says we are related, you and I. Reminds me we are wandering in the dusk, our faces a chocolate bar, facing the night of two moons. And though I'm a lonely little question mark, he laughs. Life is for the living with gypsies and sailors. Till the old junk man death plants your feet in the cool swamp mud, shake your brown feet, honey. Wander through this living world. Get out the lunchbox of your dreams. Stay awake all night with loving or be a woman in the doorway. Death don't ring no doorbells or say, here is that sleeping place as if it were some noble thing. Think how thin and sharp the moon is tonight. Don't mind dying, veiling what darkness hides. Haunt like mystery, like a naked bone in gumbo. Nod at the sun. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Lynn, two things. Have I been saying cento all this time and it's cento? Because it's Italian
I think
stuff?
it's cento because it's Italian, but I have heard people say cento and I have no idea.
Amazing.
I think it's cento. What?
I think, yeah, I mean, that sounds like the Italian pronunciation. I never, oh shit.
Glad I could.
We forgive you.
Yeah, thanks for the education. Are those all Langston Hughes lines? Or are
Yes,
they different?
they're all Langston
They're all
Hughes
Langston.
lines.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
And then I saw, because I was reading over your shoulder, you're like breaking them kind of not on the sentences.
You're right,
Are they
not on the
lines from
sentences.
different
So I
places that
took
you've
his
then
whole collected, which is To do this, I always tell people, get somebody with a substantial amount of work and just pick lines you like and then try to put them
I
together.
like that.
Yeah.
So were you splicing halfway through the line sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes happens.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks. I always, I'm taking a class right now in like formal experiments because I always think they're dumb, and then I see that and I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
You just have to do it well.
You have to pick the right color. So you want somebody not with like, I mean, one book is fine, but you don't have enough to pick from so that the people don't recognize the poems.
Right.
And you want to pick someone and pick less well-known poems.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to read, I've got 3 little bits in volume 6 of the Los Angeles Press Journal. And I'm just going to do those. So this one's called, Here is a Gift You Can't Take With You. The feeling of, I love you, on your tongue. The memory of sweat. When was the last time you were this dirty and didn't care? Lover, I aim to haunt you with my joy. Give you the wiggling puppy of my enthusiasm and ask, will you feed this? My sorrow is small-stomached, but happiness is always hungry. Prepare me a feast of your anxiety, and I will eat every sin. You worry like it's your religion, but I hear you're feeding parts of yourself I never could. And my world expands through emulation. Emulation, the opposite of envy. I am flying. I am flying to you. You are far away, full of gifts I do not covet. From seeds, we learn to love something is to leave it long enough to grow. I wrote that poem on the way to the Poetry Brothel in Electric Forest this year, and it's weird reading it without a ridiculous Russian accent. Like, so used to doing, the feeling of I love you on your tongue. Character poems. Cool. This one is called My Skin is a Tattoo of the Places I've Been, which is an awful title, but I have not gotten around to changing it.
Title. I like that title.
I do too.
Okay, cool.
You willing to sell it?
How much?
We'll negotiate.
Okay.
I hope you're gonna bid high.
Can't bury the poem in a Jewish cemetery, otherwise it's fun.
Oh, that was a deep cut. That took me way too long to get. Woo! My skin is a tattoo of the places I've been. Arms! When'd you last tingle this cold? Unbirthed into the North Sea as it spat sunrise and broke winter against our misplaced bodies. Pale and spotty 18-year-olds in bumfuck Scotland. All of us drunk on Tesco vodka, shivery, bewitched, belly aching for books, slurring distance or mystery. We huddled, a horny mass, grubbing toward the hot chocolate streamed from the Christian Union's pop-up tent under the ruined castle bluffs. We proffered with thin fingers like a sacrament, like poison, like my mother, Dawn. I scratched out my American tongue, made space for Milky Builder's tea and Love's Labor's lost lines, say that 5 times fast, and the salt-sweet foreskins of boys with strange vocabularies. I made no plans to return. A decade later, I dance from a cryo chamber, negative 150 degrees Fahrenheit, with a reality star guru in West Hollywood, arms tattooed for each transformation. You did so good for your first time, he tells me, eyelashes frosted white. Ha! You didn't even shiver. And I think that's fucking enough for me.
So I was enjoying it. Okay, so yeah, I'm Colleen Shoshana. I'm going to read. I guess I'll take my mask off to read, if that's okay with you two. Well, I thought I'd be curious the people I'm sitting next to. Oh, my glasses. Sorry, I'm a little spacey today. I am reading from my book, The Kingdom of Roly-Polies. And this is the story, The Kingdom of Roly-Polies. This is a true story from my childhood in the Ozarks. One summer day in Catawissa, Missouri, my mother said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was trying to nudge a grasshopper to sit on my thumb with little success but much determination. I crouched in the tall prairie grass of our yard. It was a vast rolling meadow, rich with walking sticks. You know, that's a kind of bug, y'all. I don't know if y'all have them out here. Rich with walking sticks, cicadas, and lapis-colored butterflies, and sometimes surprises, like iridescent bottle caps or long-forgotten dolls with jewel-like eyes staring up through a tangle of gnats. Besides unmown grass, we had several organic gardens, a marijuana patch, a handful of ornery goats and runaway chickens, a gravel pile, and 2 forbidden places. One, in the back, a pile of firewood. My father said there were snakes there, and this I longed to see, but I could never sneak away long enough to find out. And 2, in the front of the house, right alongside the highway. When I say highway, I mean it's a 2-lane road. That's what we call a highway in rural Missouri. Right alongside the highway was the ditch. My mother was pulling weeds from the edges of this ditch, and I wasn't even allowed to get close to it because it was dangerous, and it was just for grown-ups. I was 4 years old. Now I was being asked a grown-up question. What did I want to be? I had never considered this question. I had ambitions. I wanted to entrap as many lightning bugs as possible without setting any free. I wanted my bubbles to be large and slowly wavering, not to break as soon as they warbled from the wand. I wanted the mud pies I made to be crisp on the outside, tender on the inside. Work sounded like fun, but with the added benefit that I would be considered important for doing it. For example, if I pointed my toes while balancing on an ant-covered half-rotten log in the brambly woods, that was just being me. But if I were a ballerina, I would do the same thing on a stage in front of lights, and I would wear a fancy dress, and everyone would throw flowers and praise me. That would be work. I knew my father's job was not like this. He labored on the assembly line at Chrysler in 110-degree heat. He let me know just how much he despised it, and he taught me words like union and strike. He even said these words on the news, looking handsome with his long, sweaty hair hanging down from his hard hat. So his job was not enchanting, but he was heroic. He charged into dark, scary places and did what had to be done. I understood heroic men from the stories I read. I did not want to work for Chrysler. Most of my family worked there, but none encouraged me to do the same. I could read at 3, and I was told I was smart, so I wanted to be a ballerina. But then I started thinking about all the things I could not do if I were a ballerina. I might want to have kids, be a teacher, ride an elephant, be Princess Leia, be a doctor and an artist and a tightrope walker. Could I do all at once? Or maybe only 3 at a time? I knew being Princess Leia couldn't be a full-time job because I had already been her. My mother had done my hair like Princess Leia's for a party. It was long enough to be authentic. And in a white dress, I had handily met the requirements for being a princess. So I knew having my hair done each day would take time, but after that, surely I, Princess Leia, could handle a few paintings and pirouettes, even a few elephant pirouettes. I was contemplating all this when my mother sniggered, "You don't know what you want? You want to be a ditch digger?" Yeah! That idea was a blast of light so bright it extinguished all other ambition. The ditch was maybe 5 feet long and 3 feet deep, right alongside the 2-lane highway. I am estimating the size of this ditch roughly. In my memory, it was a tremendous gulf, a deep abyss of fairy tale proportions. I don't know why the ditch had been dug. We hadn't dug it. It was something to do with the county or the phone company, but it was a pit of magic, a marvel of clean-cut earth, brown mud, red clay, roots sticking out, and best of all, worms squirming through. I wanted so much to play in it, but I had been forbidden since the day when the yellow truck came by, and big sunburned, sweaty men dug it up, laughing at the way I watched them. Suddenly, my mother swooped me up under my arms and placed me in the ditch. I was flabbergasted by my luck. It was cooler down there, with a pleasant, damp, earthy smell. I was eye level with grub worms and beetles, pokey roots and feathery roots. Come inside, I said to her. Now, she said. Come on, it's nice. There's ants. No, she said, I don't want to. I tried to entice her by describing just how many worms were inside, but surprisingly, she turned away to examine her marigold bread. How bright the sun and grass were, and the white canvas of my mother's shoes. They seemed far away on the other side of the hole. The ditch was just as dark and slimy as I dreamed it would be, populated with more wondrous bugs than I'd imagined. I fingered roots and poked roly-polies, watched them curl into hard balls. I wriggled my toes in the mud. I looked up at one steep wall, another wall, another. It was a place without my mother, a place I could not escape on my own. Mommy! What? Pick me up! I lifted my arms. Just a minute. She did everything slow. The sky shone like blue chrome. I had to blink against its brightness. There was a spider pulling her web tight across the corner of the pit. I saw my mother's shoes, then her. I stretched up on tiptoe to meet her. Now, she said, had enough of the ditch for the day? I silently nodded my head. She lifted me onto the land and went back to our weeding like nothing had happened. I looked down at the hole with my first regret. Princess hair no longer seemed like an achievement. Mine was hot and sweaty on my neck with bits of ditchy roots hanging from the ends. Would I ever be brave enough, I wondered? Would I ever have what it takes to be a ditch digger?
I believe you can do it, Colleen.
Oh, thank you. I might get there one day.
Having just finished watching the show Ozark, I feel I am a complete expert in
No, I do not believe so. We don't kill each other quite so often.
Well, they exaggerate a little. Linda, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. Congratulations on the release of the dance. I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate poetry in Los Angeles, and I'm also going to be reading poems outside of the book that are at least 2 feet away from the book. So, you know, there's a good connection there. I have a brand new book out. It's so new that we left the house at 5:15 today, and the first box of them came at 5:14.
Wow.
So this is, and I was afraid to crack it open because I didn't want to ruin it. It's a book of poems I wrote in Hawaii last summer, and it's called I Am Not Writing a Book of Poems in Hawaii. And so this is the publication event for it, I guess. I'm gonna read 3 poems total, 2 from the book, and then another Los Angeles poem. The poems I'm going to read from the book are poems I wrote on the way to Hawaii. Our kid, while we were preparing to go, our kid was at summer camp, and we had no idea if he was alive because he was not communicating with us in any way. So this is kind of about that, and it responds actually to a line of text from the Torah portion that week in June of last year. This line of text: do not say to yourself, because of my righteousness, God has brought me to possess this land. And the poem is called Parenting Lessons from the Holy One. We brought our kid to Jewish summer camp 2 weeks ago. We armed him with all the socks he could need, face masks in his preferred color, and every essential one could need in the wilderness. All we asked was that he write us postcards, even just one, so we had a sense that he was alive. We wrote him by the system provided every single day, but our trips to the mailbox proved fruitless. We made it so easy, the postcards already stamped and with our address on them. They were tiny too, barely spaced to write 3 words. He could have just written, "I am alive." He even sent back a blank postcard, and he could have told us later that he thought we were psychic. I would have found that hilarious. But now, less than a week before we pick him up, and we don't even know if he'll still be there, we'll dutifully show up. We'll pile his dirt into our trunk. We'll take him to brunch. We'll take him to goddamn Hawaii. We won't do these things to reward righteous behavior, but because this is what he has been promised. This is our obligation as parents. We would bring him to the wilderness and then carry him back across the river to his promised land. This is how the Israelites got across their river, despite decades of complaining and a golden calf, despite rebellions and broken tablets. The parent of all parents would not leave his children in the desert, and neither will we. We took an Uber to the airport. He was fine, by the way. This was written about that. This is called Uber or Lyft, I don't remember. 1, the fog in the Sepulveda Pass, it's almost as if Los Angeles doesn't want us to leave. 2, who's ready for a lot of commentary about how I'm going to lose my phone in a volcano? 3, our driver used to be the mailman at our new house. He still uses that pronoun, or at least he was the mail person. I'm making adjustments for our new house, which he may know better than we do. He likes our hill. He only drives on Tuesdays and sorts mail in Burbank the rest of the week. The way his Prius bobs up and down in the carpool lane makes it almost impossible to document this. 4, everyone's got the same story. I only do this part-time. As we leave the freeway at Howard Hughes Parkway, or is it an avenue? I need to do my research. Driving people from here to there is just a cultural experiment I do to pass the time between sorting the mail and living my best life. Thank you. That was my first public reading from I Am Not Writing a Book of Poems. I noticed the colors kind of match the little stool here. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that's
That was intentional, I'm sure.
that's something big and meaningful.
The title of that book is alive.
This is a poem I wrote about Los Angeles a long time ago, and thank you again for having me, and it's so nice to be here and read with all of you as well. This is called Seasons in LA. It is autumn in LA, and soon the leaves will come off the trees. Throughout the Southland, a total of 6 leaves will fall off as many trees, and those lucky enough to spot one will reminisce wistfully about their time spent in the East as a child. Those not from the East will curse the harshness of LA's winters and continue on their long drives down Sepulveda for destinations as far away as Culver City. I wonder how the onset of the fall will affect the hummingbirds. Every day, now that we've installed the feeder, a fleet of the rascals like feathered helicopters hovers near the flower-shaped receptacles, sipping the sweet nectar I break my fingers every day to afford. Do they leave town when the thermometer hits the Arctic-like sub-65 degrees that sends my wool cap on a beeline straight from the closet to the washing machine for its annual refreshing? Or do they stick it out, hover together for warmth, disguise themselves as falling leaves, and pray to the bird gods the nectar doesn't freeze? It is seriously not summer in Los Angeles. Those with a preference for cold-weathered clothes are warming up our credit cards. Fire season has come and gone. It's time to put up the flood decorations. I am one of the lucky ones. A leaf has fallen to the ground off my tree. I watch it drift to the ground like American Beauty.
Wow, it's just so great to be here with all of you and all these amazing poets, and thank you, Linda, for having us, and this amazing place, just so great. I'm going to read my poem that is in Volume 6, The Dance, and I just want to honor this person who it's about. His name was Felix Freibusch, and he was an actor and Holocaust survivor. If you watch Law and Order, which I think everybody probably has, he was like the main Holocaust survivor in several of those main episodes, and he was most famous for inventing a dance style that mimicked the Hebrew alphabet. And he went around the world teaching it, and he was very well known in the Yiddish community and in the vaudeville community, and he survived the Holocaust. He was never in a concentration camp. He was always like thwarting the Nazis through dance and art. It was kind of amazing. He was like, and then we moved. The troop went to this new place, and he had these amazing stories. And so this is a poem in honor of him, and it's called How to Visit Felix. And I visited him once a week for almost a year. If possible, take a pad and a pen with you and use them. Begin with the surface questions rather than the questions about Warsaw. Research first the articles on the internet about his career as a dancer, actor. Study attentively the playbills of shows he's done overseas. In most cases, you will not be able to obtain a copy for yourself. Devote a little time each day to the little objects on his shelves, fake grapes, jade elephants. Do not feel obliged to see the painful side of his past. Try to learn a few Jewish dance gestures, the one he created based on the Hebrew alphabet. Be patient. Remember in using these directions that there really are no rules. Don't expect to admire an 80-year-old man until you've learned to stop thinking of him just as an old man or just favorite moves. Rejection, compassion, it's very nice, and ecstasy. Don't expect to like the first visit because expectations in general can lead to disappointment. Allow for the part where you introduce yourself to happen naturally. For example, if you normally kiss your friends on the cheek, hello, kiss Felix. But if you normally shake hands with people, shake his hand. If you are tempted to quarrel with yourself about whether these visits will become depressing or monotonous, think of all the joy he gets from just having someone willing to listen. Forgive every repetition for the duration of every visit. Try to discover God through Felix. Whenever you find yourself wanting to speak, but he keeps talking, lean in. Make intense eye contact. Put one hand on your knee as if you were going to reach for his hand, then part your lips, and he should wrap it up. Think of these visits as a close look into the mind of a man whose life has spanned across countries, wars, stages, languages that you might never see, a lens held up to the sun highlighting all of the best parts of his life. Accept an offer to return. Don't insist that he contact you. Instead, always call him. Don't get homesick for your grandmother. And everybody watching, if you buy the book, then you get to see these lovely pictures of Felix that I took on his balcony on the Upper West Side. And then this photo is a photo of a picture I took of the photo itself, of him dancing in like, gosh, I don't even know what year it was.
How did you meet him?
I was taking a class, actually. It was a class that we took on just the Holocaust, and part of the class was visiting a survivor for the duration. And
Wow.
it was just a mind-blowing experience. And he was just really wonderful, and I was really fortunate because not everybody was able to like spend time with an amazing actor who had all these like amazing stories, you know. So I was really fortunate. And unfortunately, he passed in 2014. He was 96. So
It's amazing. I remember him so much from that series, from seeing him
Oh,
in that
yeah.
role. And
He's in like
very
10 episodes.
impressive. Yeah,
He's
very-
so impressive, right?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that in those episodes, they actually had to make him look older. He showed me like the whole thing. They actually had to do like a whole
thing with his
face
face. Yeah.
because, I mean, he was already an older man, but
Yeah.
they made him look even older
Even
for
older.
that.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just, he's an incredible guy. And yeah, if you've seen the show, you'll know exactly who he is.
A lovely tribute.
Yeah, thank you. And get everybody out there, get this book. It's really great. And if I can read one from my new book that came out, Florence Nightingale's Lost Log, an imagined life of Florence Nightingale, where she has a love affair that, as far as we know, she did not have. And I'll just read the first poem in the book called Before Scutari. And her and 40 nurses traveled to the Crimea to take care of all of the men who were on both sides who were coming in from the Crimean War, and they showed up and didn't realize that like 3,000 injured soldiers would be waiting for them to basically build a hospital. So Before Scutari, November 4th, 1854. We await our fate on wind, wood, and wave. I stagger upon deck. Through the dense mist, I see the plains of Troy, the tomb of Achilles. I do not question his weakness, even with his status among the gods. The battle, like love, better in our dreams. A storm prepares us, 400 wounded already waiting on shore. The old gods peered down, drowned us in their violent tears. Trojan ghosts whisper, give up your fever for heroes. It's true. Wars do not stop for stories.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for reading. What a treat. I will be reading a piece from Volume 6. Thank you, Linda. I read this a couple weeks ago, but I was very jet-lagged and remember nothing. So this is like my first reading.
Was this at McKee's that you?
Yes.
sang? Yes.
It was at McKee's.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was about 20 feet above my body.
And there were lots of shirtless men dancing under you.
There were. Yeah, it was beautiful.
I can't believe I missed that.
I can't believe she can't remember.
It was filmed, so it never happened.
There we go. Weekly on a Tuesday night, the Mike and
Evidence.
Okay. This is called One Step into the Frog Swamp. So, based on life, I can only talk about it when I read about it, so this is what this is. I have dreamt of the murderer as himself, not in metaphor. I face him straight on, something I've never done. This is only my second dream of him. The first one, a placeholder version I have constructed. A blurry blonde security guard with white lashes who strangles me from behind. This newer one, updated with photos from history and present prison time, is a closer composite, but he is smaller than me and has infantilized eyes, big and vulnerable and submissive. It was an all-night dream, a deep and pointed one, unsubtle. He is somehow out of prison, and my father has invited him to stay in a house I don't recognize with me and my brothers. My mother is somewhere nearby. The only evidence of her is a vase of red roses she has left by the murderer's bed. In the shuffling of arrangements, somehow I've ended up in a bed right next to his. I'm outraged that this should happen, but I have to confront him myself. I have to brush by him and feel his rapist presence and know that he hears my voice. I move my bed to the next room, which is a studio with mirrors, and I lean my head on the bar and cry deeply. I see my legs in reflection. I don't want to see my face. My younger brother is there. He has seen me cry like this in waking life. Everyone is trying to sleep, and the murderer is making a lot of noise, twitching and fussing. He gets up and lays down next to my older brother's bed, and I feel bad for him with this oldest son responsibility. The murderer puts on a show to display his discomfort. He has timed his small tantrum for me to witness. He is aware of me but doesn't look at me. He takes the roses by his bed and encases them in twin-sized sheets of plastic. The roses become as big as the bed, and he flattens them underneath. Now he will be able to sleep. I leave the house, but I keep running into him at a cafe where I meet him with friends who don't know who he is and treat him like a non-raping, murdering human. They know he has been in prison and assume it must be drugs, right? I turn my back to him and say quietly to them, he raped and murdered my aunt. They go quiet and glare at him, and I almost feel bad for him. So this isn't what you expected, he said, or meeting me isn't making your day, or something like this. A woman takes a cartoon big lock and key and goes away with him. I meet him again at a party. I wake up and try to write the dream. I settle into silence, a brief beat of blank that is already gone 7 words back. There is nothing to solve or reconcile in one sentence. The murderer sits and waits in his cell. He lives and breathes and continues and is as real as I am. I must make him more real and unmonster him and accept. I turn toward and away, toward and back. Balance with precision, spin away quickly, finding the same point when I return, and if I tilt my head or move my eyes in the slightest, my inattention will crumble the floor. What do you think it means, my friend asks. We discuss this, how he gets in between me and my brothers, his influences revealed, and how we love or how we don't. It comes in waves, my hatred of how he is mythologized, the negative space of him, how much he has shaped and affected my heart, the heart of my family. A stupid man, hiding, looming in my life, a secret side pocket of him in my chest. My friend says that it is good that I have dreamt of him. I've looked him in the face and been bigger than he is.
So here's the book. Thank you so much. I'll try not to fall down after I reintroduce everyone. My thanks to Tia Chuchas, to Luis Rodriguez, Karen Ugarte, to Brian, to all the wonderful people here, to Addie, to your wonderful son. I'm so glad he survived camp and got to go to Hawaii. Our thanks to Poet Laureate Lynne Thompson, to Poet Laureate Brian Sonia-Wallace, to Colleen Shoshana McKee, to Rick Lupert, to Christina Cha, always thinking of her Aunt Teresa. Thank you so much for sharing that poem. It means so very much to me. And of course to Bernadette McComish, welcome back. See you in 10 days at the Poetry Brothel at El Cid. But please come to Tia Chuchas. Order online all the books you could ever possibly want and need. And thanks a million.